I think Rasheed Rice is incredibly lucky 3 times over. And I think that, listen, so he's going to do 30 days in jail at some point. He's going to have 5 years probation. You got to stay out of trouble. You know what I mean? So that's a real thing. And he still got incredibly lucky. The penalty from the courts could have been far more severe. The injuries he sustained, which were none, could in the accident could have been could have been career-ending, whatever. And the injuries the innocent people who just happened to be on the road sustained could have been far more severe. It was as reckless as one can be, really behind the wheel sober, and got very, very lucky. And so now, is it going to have an impact on the Chiefs? Yeah. Is it going to is the hardest part of their schedule the very beginning, where I expect he's definitely going to miss the Chargers and Philly game. He might also miss the Giants and Ravens game. And it maybe even extends to where he misses the Jags and Lions game. I wouldn't imagine it goes past that first column, but I think 4 games is probably what you would expect. 6 would certainly be on the board. And I just think he's already paid $1 million in restitution plus $100,000 in other people's legal fees. He's going to lose out on maybe $500,000 in salary, whatever it is. And I just hope he knows that this is still the best possible outcome for him.
I'm going to pull a Nick Wright. See that?
Oh, see?
It's my chicken scratch. You might not be able to read it. It says incredibly lucky.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But what he did, as you said, is the height of recklessness and irresponsibility. He broke the social contract.
That's right.
That we all have. There's a social contract that when I leave the building tonight and walk to my car, nobody's just going to come up and sucker punch me. Right? I know it happens, but that's when you're a criminal and you pay for it. But that's the social contract. And drag racing is always reckless and dangerous and all that. But when you watch that video, it's the middle of the day, traffic. There's traffic. Can you imagine driving home tonight and just 2 cars going 100 miles an hour just all of a sudden come But this is a slap on the wrist. For all the penalties you just mentioned this is a slap on the wrist. And then there's some reports that the Chiefs are expecting around 4 games, as you kind of mentioned. He'd be fortunate if it's 4. It could easily be half the season or whatever, and it would be justified because this was just terrible what happened, and it can't happen again. So hopefully he really is sincere in his apology and has learned from this. But look, he's a great wide receiver, and you hope he learned from his mistake, and whatever he gets is justified to me as far as.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, stories like this are definitely a bummer to have to cover. Because it's just not something that you want to do. And, the reality is that there's lots of stories like this in professional sports, but it all depends on who you are and how important you are to a team and how important and popular the team is, right? If this happened to a player who was playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars, people would skip over it a lot. I mean, they just would. That's just the reality of the situation. But it's, Rasheed Rice with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? It's one of the most popular teams, a dynasty, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid. Right now, it doesn't get much larger than that in all of sports, let alone just football. And so, hopefully, because of the extra attention that it'll bring on him, it will force him to really not be able to skip over this and not be able to be like, man, they're making a big deal out of nothing. Nobody was hurt, this, that, and the third. Hopefully it's just it's a real moment when you're just like, yeah, I did get lucky. This could have gone so much worse. And I just won a Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. We were going for a 3-peat. My whole life is there. I'm in a position to potentially live one of the greatest lives, just ever lived. And it was almost all gone in an instance, in just a blink of the eye. And it was because of a bad decision on my part. It wasn't just like, there's lots of times in life when something can be taken away from you by no fault of your own. No fault of your own. But this was definitely a decision by Rasheed Rice that could be different. And hopefully you do just learn. Hopefully you do mature. Make no mistake about it. Considering how famous and the amount of money that he has, the legal team that he would have around him, the fact that he's getting 5 years of probation and 30 days in jail, the fact that he's actually getting sentenced to legitimate jail time it can't be overstated. That is wild. That is real. The fact that he actually got legit jail time, and maybe the lawyers will be able to find a way out of it and they'll be able to appeal, but like just the fact that it's actually part of the formal sentencing is no joke. And if he only gets 4 games suspension, like that's pretty wild. That you could do something so severe that you get sentenced to jail and you might only miss 4 games or 6 games. Like it's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. So I'm fascinated to see how the NFL deals with it. I think of course the Kansas City Chiefs will be able to overcome it. You got Andy, you got Mahomes, you got Xavier Worthy, you got Hollywood Brown. I mean, like the offense will obviously still be serviceable at the minimum, right? Like it's not like it's just gonna be like they're just awful. They can't score more than 10 points. They look like the Pittsburgh Steelers with Justin Fields. Like it's not going to look like that. So it definitely hurts them when you look at their schedule and when the suspensions will most likely come about. So I get that, but like you're still not going to count them out because they were obviously able to win games with no Hollywood Brown, with no Rasheed Rice, with a rookie Xavier Worthy, no Pacheco. So I don't think like from just a football perspective it's just like, all right, they're done, no chance. Like I'm certainly not going to say that, but it obviously hurts them. And there was obviously this feeling and excitement of like everyone's going to be healthy. We're gonna have a fortified O-line now. Rasheed's going to be here, Hollywood Brown, year 2 with Xavier Worthy, Pacheco. Like we got our offense back. We got our core back. We're ready to get after it. And then to potentially be starting the season already down wide receiver 1. It's, it's obviously far from ideal, obviously. But yeah, man, this is a bummer, but I think they had the right conversation here, really just emphasizing how lucky he is that more harm wasn't done, and just the fact and just even the consequences of his actual actions, how lucky he really is in this situation. And it's just, yeah, it's everything could have been taken away from him in an instance, which is why people made a big deal about it with Shedeur Sanders when he got pulled over multiple times, because it's like you're in a position to just live such an amazing life. Just do not fumble this. Do not fumble this, man. You know how bad it is to fumble in a football game? We know how bad it is. We know think about how dumb and how bad you feel when you have the ball and you're running and it just pops out. Think of the feeling that you think about when you're on the sideline and someone scooped it up and scored a touchdown, and now, or they took it to the 10-yard line, and now you just have to sit there being like, man, I really hope the defense bails me out here. Think of that feeling, how awful it feels, what you just did. Now imagine fumbling in life. Think about how bad you feel in that football game. Think about how bad you feel about in life. Okay? So it's just like, I pray that it ends up being a wake-up call. And I pray that it ends up being a wake-up call for all athletes, for anyone, just realizing what, that your decisions have consequences, and how everything can be, gone in an instant. So, yeah, it's a bummer, but hopefully it ends up being kind of a silver lining. Hopefully it ends up, sparking a lot of maturity and growth from Rasheed Rice, and just really ends up being another reminder for other up and coming players of like, this can be gone very quickly. I need to be smart. I need to be better. And unfortunately, you need examples like this as reminders. So and hopefully it just becomes that and nothing else. But yeah, I mean, you know, even just 5 years probation, it'll be interesting. Probation could be different for all different things. Sometimes it's like you can't even do legal things even under probation. Like you can't even drink. There's, you know, it all really depends on the parameters of probation. So there'll be certain things where it's like, you know, and obviously since he's traveling the country for football and stuff, like you need permission to leave, or you know, you need permission to leave the state. Like it's, you know, it's definitely a real thing. I think sometimes people think sometimes that probation is just like, well, you just can't get in trouble for the next 5 years. It's like, well, that's true too, but a lot of times like there's legitimate things that need to be done. And like I said, even legal things that are normally totally okay, like, you know, having a drink when you're, even if you're 25 years old, just going across to a different state, you know, for something that's non-work related, you know, you need permission for. So hopefully he has the right people around him. Hopefully the Kansas City Chiefs are supporting him, and hopefully this can just be something that is a thing of the past, and you know, the levels of success that he has in his life, that it'll just be like a random section in his Wikipedia that, you know, that's it, rather than just the beginning of, you know, just endless things. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Rasheed Rice being suspended, or expected to be suspended, and kind of how this all went down? How do you think this both affects on the field as well, you know, with the Kansas City Chiefs? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.